Mazel tov to us and everyone else.
Why?
We have a new studio.
I know, it looks amazing.
Look at this beautiful set. And for those listening to this podcast, I apologize, but try to take our word for this.
Yeah, it's really nice here.
We have a new set. Today on the TBN Israel Unnamed podcast, we're talking about the question of whether the war is over.
No, it's not over.
Or
Mati.
not.
I will give you my answer. The war is far from over.
Well,
just getting started.
My claim, we've been debating this for several days now.
Yeah.
My claim is that the war as we know it is over. And we've transitioned from active, let's call it waging active war, to a phase of maintenance and going back to a security parameter as we did in the past.
Well, not in the Gaza Strip as of the past few days. We'll see what happens.
We're on the way to that in the Gaza Strip. But my sense is, and again, like, let's wrap up everything that's been happening in the last couple of days.
Yeah, let's do that.
The speed and the volume of the transition of news and shifting powers in this region has been amazing.
And I hope our viewers watched us every day as we reported it.
As we're recording the news, I'm like looking at the number of changes that happen on a daily basis. Yeah. Names of leaders, names of countries that are involved, names of militias that exist.
Names of countries that are not called the same anymore.
Yeah, it's been
names of countries that collapse.
Even for the Middle East, even for this last going on year and a half, it's 14, 15 months already of war. Even for that, it's been a very, very rapid chain of events, and more so the level of conspiracy theories that are floating and rumors that are. These are not coming from the public. Rumors coming from within the Israeli government, Hamas, and other countries in the area that are involved. The volume of rumors is unbelievable. Talks of hostage agreements, talks of a ceasefire without any preconditions with Hamas.
Yeah.
The information coming out about what the IDF is doing in Syria, Lebanon, it's just like this really rapid chain of events.
Yeah, definitely.
And to me, it feels like this is sort of the end of this phase. Like it's a last sort of commotion before things settle down for a season.
We'll see. Let's also explain the situation now. Okay, so the Gaza Strip. We've been fighting against Hamas. They are the first one who started all this huge war that's happening now. And we've been fighting them. They are almost completely dismantled. At the moment, we are still in active fighting in certain areas, but the IDF has a massive presence in key locations in the Gaza Strip. We are waiting for a ceasefire deal, and the Gaza Strip is evolving, and we hope to see all of our hostages back home soon. But the situation is still unclear because Hamas still maintains all the control, the administrative control and the civil control over the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, and there is nobody else to replace them for now. No candidate so far.
No, but to your point, the IDF has done a very, very systematic job over at this point, it's more than a year of fighting.
Yeah.
And keep doing.
And we just brought another division, the Commando Division, into the Gaza Strip.
So the Commando Division that we're fighting in Lebanon are now back in Gaza again.
Exactly.
They're they're the strongest division, the strongest division in the regular army.
I fought with them in Gaza. They're pretty cool,
the top of the top. They're back in Gaza, trying to finish, as some say, in Jabalia.
we
believe the pronunciation
whatever happened to Faoud Shukar will happen to all the leaders of Hamas.
I'll say this for our viewers at home.
You need to explain that.
I'll explain the backstory here.
They're laughing at the way I pronounce Arabic names.
But by the way. We get a very, very hard time from our team anytime a name is mispronounced. And in the last year, the number of names that have come up where it pops up, is like, I've never seen this name before.
What is it, Pazashkian?
Yeah, Masoud Pazashkian.
Yeah.
I've been practicing in front of the mirror for weeks.
Listen, and the thing with me is, like, whenever I'm getting corrected 3 times, that's it. I get stuck with the wrong name. That's it. I will not say the right name anymore.
We had Erdogan, who's the Turkish president. We keep getting corrected in different directions.
Yeah, Erdogan? Erdogan.
And every time, then when I see the name, my brain goes, wait a minute, you know the right answer? Stop. And anyway, so...
Yeah, okay. So let's go.
Jabalia. So back to the Gaza Strip. One of the longest standing and the last standing strongholds of Hamas is Jabalia, which is a big town, I guess I would call it, in
a heavily populated area.
Yeah,
and Hamas is operating from within the civilian population. It's a refugee camp.
Yeah, and also just to remind everyone who maybe is only now joining like this discussion, things in the Gaza Strip, the majority of the cities, towns, villages in that area have been visited, taken over by the IDF multiple times at this point. Some of them for the third time already. Now, some of them have remained in IDF control for an extended period of time, such as the area in the Netzarim corridor. But Jabalia, for multiple reasons, both its geographical location, but also the fact that the IDF knew that many of the hostages were held there, never really received the full brunt of the IDF's maneuvering power. And because of that, now this is sort of like the last move that happens between IDF and Hamas strongholds in the Gaza area. And it's probably going to end, it seems it's going that way, with a ceasefire and a hostage exchange.
It will be multiple stages. It won't happen in one day at what time. It will be like, hey, we do this, you free these amount of hostages. We move the forces away from that area, you free some more hostages. That's kind of the situation that's going to be.
So our big question today is, where's the monitor?
Is the war over?
Is the war over? And I think when you look at, so let's answer the question.
The Gaza Strip, looks like it's close to the end.
It's
in the Gaza Strip.
And in Lebanon.
Okay, in Lebanon.
Let's finish with Hamas. So Hamas is, think about the organization. You think about the political leadership, done.
Annihilated.
Military leadership, Yahya Sinwar, gone. Much of the executives and the commanders of the unit, gone. Financial resources, human assets, weaponry, support in finances from the Iranians. Much of those things have been eliminated. Most of their ability to fight as an organized fighting force within the Gaza Strip has been deeply hurt, and long ago, by the way, not just in the recent weeks. And then they're sort of at their last stand, knowing that they have no chance to stop the IDF, and sort of have started positioning themselves. The headlines a couple days ago were that Hamas is willing to enter into a ceasefire with no preconditions. Their conditions so far were, well, you would call it a negotiation, like a loaded bomb, and no pun intended. They were things that we knew they didn't want to actually engage in negotiation. Leave the Gaza Strip for an extended period before we negotiate.
And now it's basically let's stop the fighting for 60 days. Like, give us some time to breathe, and maybe some, let our leadership live freely outside of Gaza,
kind of freedom of movement,
stuff like that.
But they're not asking the IDF to leave.
No.
So again, you look at them. Is Hamas
maybe from certain areas?
Is Hamas an adversary to Israel the way it was 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago? Absolutely not.
No.
Israel has, and again, we use the word corridor. It's a very loose term of that word. Israel has, and this is not like secretive information. You could find the maps anywhere. You Google them. Israel has a more than 40 square kilometer block in the middle of the Gaza Strip, which is called the Netzarim corridor.
Separating between the northern part of the Gaza Strip and the southern part of the Gaza Strip. Same thing we have on the Philadelphia corridor, which is the border between Gaza and Egypt. And we have also military presence there. And these are the most important strategically locations of the IDF in Gaza.
Exactly. And what it does is for the extended season that we're going to be there, and I'm guessing we're looking at least.
I think at least 5 to 10 years.
I was going to say. I was going to say
2 decades.
I was going to say 2 years exactly the way it is now, and then probably some kind of like mid solution that will lead to something longer term. But what it is the IDF saying we have the assets on the ground. Again, all of these are movable.
The boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground, tracks on the ground, everything you need on the ground. But more so than that, it's the ability to prevent movement of Hamas combatants or terrorists within the Gaza Strip, to move goods, to control the border crossings, to allow for the distribution of humanitarian aid, which is a huge issue that the IDF deals with long term. And what that will allow is for the people of Gaza to enter into the winter season with humanitarian aid being given to the population, not through Hamas and not kidnapped or taken hostage by Hamas.
Winter season is already here. And at the moment, the IDF is moving in aid, but the one who's distributing the aid or selling it at high prices is Hamas.
For the most part,
that's what's happening now.
I visited that what was it?
Kerem Shalom?
The Kerem Shalom border crossing a couple weeks ago. It's very dramatic to see the look of the trucks that have to distribute goods inside the Gaza Strip.
You showed me.
They look like something out of Mad Max.
It's like trucks with like some
they have armor
metal
plates,
on them to protect them from looting from either Palestinians.
And they said the Palestinians there told me the Hamas actively loots almost everything that is attempted to be distributed. So Gaza Strip, we're nearing the end.
Nearing the end. Okay, I can.
On the other hand, it's amazing that they still function Hamas. You have Muhammad Sinwar, the brother of Yahya Sinwar, that is still in control over the thing. And the idea now is to crush the last stand hold of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And the question that I think that coming up out of that is this deal will really finish the war, or will start a new chapter with Hamas trying to fight again?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think you're asking a very, very difficult question, Tomer, because the assumption that Hamas one day will stop fighting is, you're taking a lot of things that we don't know that can happen.
And also it means that Hamas will cease to exist, because on their banner, like their whole purpose as an organization is to fight Israel and to eradicate the state of Israel.
That's my point.
So if they stop fighting, they cease to exist. It's like Greenpeace will stop loving trees, I don't know if that was exactly what they do, but
I think they hug trees, I think is the term we're looking for. Good analogy, like that. But to Tomel's point is so Hamas is here to stay because they are the national movement of the people of the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
For the foreseeable future, that doesn't change without a dramatic amount of time and a dramatic amount of effort from external forces, which goes back to this original assumption. We asked the question, is the war over? My answer is yes, as we know it.
As we know it. Okay. So Lebanon. What happened in Lebanon?
So Lebanon's interesting. Israel in the last, it's not
3 months, 4 months already?
So let's say 4 months of fighting in Lebanon. We have dismantled much of Hezbollah. We've killed their leadership, all of it. We've had several very, very successful, incredible events where
the beepers,
the pager attacks,
the
communication, other walkie-talkies and communication methods exploding. These were the intelligence I've heard in recent publications. Was we're talking about an operation that's been planned for more than 10 years, more than 10 years in the making to get to that point.
I remember, we went to the north to film, and then on our way back we said, okay, nothing is happening in Lebanon. How can we do like a live? We need something, that will happen. I said, it's no critical events. And then immediately, all the news is the pagers. We get all the reports, all the sources, images from Lebanon of pagers exploding. And I think that was a turning point in this war between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And since then, it just escalated, meaning the IDF's involvement and this, effectiveness in destroying this terrorist organization.
Yeah.
I put you the Naim Qassam. He went on stage.
Naim Qassam. Okay, so he's like the leader of Hezbollah at the moment, that is still alive. He's living in Iran. Correct, Tomer? He's still living in Iran, right?
I think, he ran to Iran.
He ran to Iran in the middle of all this
it's
war.
Not safe,
I would
as we
do
know.
the same thing. If I was a Hezbollah leader, I would not stay in Lebanon, I have to tell you.
Well, it looks like all the bad guys, that's what they're doing. Also, Assad is fighting from Russia. Naim Qassam is fighting from Iran. And he said, as he's trying to encourage his fighters to keep the fight, he said that his organization is as weak as they've ever been. They're at a very, very low point. And he admitted that. And he said that because of the war in Syria, that affects also the situation.
I find Hezbollah leadership to be interesting in that way. As you think back to 2006, Hassan Nasrallah did something very similar.
Yeah.
And I mention this because this is not something that never happens in the Muslim world. You never, ever, ever
admit defeat.
Hear a leader that admits defeat or looks back and admits a mistake. And Hassan Nasrallah in 2007, maybe after the Second Lebanon War in 2006, he comes out and he says, we miscalculated the IDF's response and the response of the people of Israel. And if we would have known the extent of the response, we would have never done what we did, which is a very interesting thing. But it also shows you, in a positive way, how connected they are to what their people are actually thinking. If you're the Hezbollah fighting force, you receive the blow that this isn't like troops that are off in a battlefield. They're embedded into the population. They've lost the villages that they lived in. They've lost the ammunition that they used. They've lost their commanders.
They've lost the popular vote. They were, labeled as the saviors of the people of Lebanon. They were actually, paying salaries to many of the Lebanese people. I mean, they were holding the economy. And now the money is not coming anymore because the IDF also destroyed banks that held Iranian money in Lebanon. I don't know, all the routes of logistical
through Syria,
weaponaries and other missiles through Syria do not exist anymore. So Hezbollah is isolated financially, militarily, no leadership. That's not good to be a Hezbollah member now.
I'll toast to that.
They own people in Lebanon, suing them right now. They still a political
party,
and they still have money to...
It's actually a pretty interesting suit. Like, they sued Hezbollah for like, okay, they've been digging tunnels underneath my house without me knowing for many years.
Yeah.
You know, the toilet wasn't working for a long time.
Sure.
Yeah.
You never knew.
I didn't know what happened.
If only you knew what all those people that were coming in and out of the underground passage beneath your house were doing, you could have stopped it, sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so you have Lebanon as this unique situation. Hezbollah's dismantled, it's weakened. They're weakened politically, on a military level, on a financial level, on a human resource level. Israel has pushed deep into the Hezbollah territory in Lebanon and taken over posts that used to belong to Hezbollah, left their villages empty. You and I, just last weekend, we were up in Manara, overlooking a bunch of the, Tomer, you were with us, that's right.
Yeah, on the border between Israel and Lebanon.
And by on the border, I mean on the border. Looking from a Jewish community that was shelled systematically for an entire year by Hezbollah.
It's crazy how close, every time that we get there, it's
so close, You have the border, you have an Israeli house, you have a Hezbollah house, and you have the United Nations, supposedly peacekeepers.
Well, they weren't there most of the war.
They came back now when the ceasefire came into effect.
They only came back once there was a ceasefire. I wish, it's hard to get these things conveyed on a camera. We were standing there on the fence of a Jewish community where 75% of the houses were destroyed by Hezbollah fire. This is anti-tank missiles against civilian houses. There were no soldiers there. There were no military targets there. It is purely to destroy a Jewish home in the country of Israel. And then right across the fence, within earshot, as far as not as Tomer
that close.
But if you were standing on the fence on the road, 50 yards away was an entire base of UNIFIL, which were supposed to be the peace-observing unit for the UN.
It's a military base.
And they had abandoned the base when the war started and only came back once the ceasefire took place.
It's so disappointing.
Yeah, makes you feel very secure if you live on that community.
What's the statement? I had zero expectations of you, and you managed to disappoint me. That's how I feel about the UN presence in the place.
Wow. I can't remember when we got to one of the houses and the windows was melted.
Yeah.
The fire was so hot that the glass melted and bent. That's how hot these rockets created.
And then across the hill, within eyesight, to be able to see if people are in their homes or not, was an enormous, how do we call this? Hezbollah ruled Sunni village in, were they Sunni? They were Sunni. A Sunni village in Lebanon, a village of over 40,000 people that for the duration of the war used their homes as a place where they were launching anti-tank missiles into civilian population in Israel and rockets into Jewish communities or Israeli communities on the other side of the border. And now that the IDF finished the maneuver, or most of the maneuver in Lebanon, those people for the most part left those villages. And I'm saying this because we're talking about what happens now, we're at the end of the phase. These people aren't coming back to their homes anytime soon. And I want to say this on not a human level, on a military and political level, they shouldn't be allowed to return to their homes. The fruit of their presence in that place was that they tried to end life for the Israelis on the other side of the border. Israelis who, and this is sort of in the weeds for an international audience, the population of those communities is as far left and peace-seeking as one can be in the state of Israel.
That's always amazing.
They're hardcore leftists, hardcore believers of peace.
The Israelis.
On the Israeli side. These are people that for decades have been calling for peace agreements with the Syrians.
Trying to talk with the other side.
Also in the Gaza Strip.
Same in the Gaza Strip.
Also in the Gaza Strip.
This, again, maybe that's for a different discussion, different piece.
Definitely.
Explaining it, but these are people.
So do we have a war with Lebanon, with Hezbollah now or not?
No.
We don't have a war with...
Are we at war?
Well, are we still fighting terrorists?
No, we're back in, we were talking about this before
the last couple of days, we still destroyed the Hezbollah stronghold.
Hezbollah is still making missions trying to retrieve valuable weapons and ammunitions, logistical supplies, infrastructure. So there is still an active fighting going on.
Yes, but another way to look at this is that there's a ceasefire agreement. And the ceasefire agreement is very, very hard on Hezbollah, harder than anything we've ever had before. It doesn't allow them to do almost anything within, forget eyesight, within rocket range of Israel.
Yeah.
And right now we're in the phase where they've been the abusive partner in a relationship. And the IDF is put to the test of how rough are you going to be upholding the ceasefire agreement. So on every infraction of the agreement, the IDF says, whatever you do, big or small, we're coming with full force. That's true. So again, are we at war? Are we showing to them that we intend to uphold every letter of the ceasefire agreement?
But remember, this ceasefire is only a test ceasefire for 60 days. So it's not like we're like this. The war is going on, but we're just at pause.
Well,
let's halftime. Okay, halftime report.
Let's run the calendar. What happens at the end of the ceasefire agreement?
So before you go, I just want to tell you that somehow 60% of our viewers are not subscribing us.
Why is that? Are you not subscribed?
I know that sounds terrible, but that's actually a lot better than many YouTube channels. Don't have.
No, this is not the point we're trying to make here, Mati.
I know.
Guys, so if you're watching and you're not subscribed and you want to help what we do here, please click that subscribe button. It helps us a lot to reach more people and to share what's happening here in Israel. And if you see this little bell, click on it, and then you'll never miss another podcast, Boots on the Ground, and any other program that we make here in Jerusalem.
But since there's 40% who have subscribed, I'll say to them, thank you for watching the content every day, because 40% isn't bad at all.
No, it's good.
We can do better than that, but thank you to everyone who's watched so far. Since we broke our chain of thought, let's also go back to what we did last week. Last week we had mugs all over the floor of the studio, and the challenge to the audience was who can correctly guess the number of mugs. And apparently no one was able to correctly guess of the hundreds of thousands of people that watched the show and many, many, many people who wrote in. No one got the correct answer.
So I think we should tell Micha to send the mugs to the five guys that were closest.
I think that's a fair thing to do.
Guys or girls, sorry.
You heard that, Micha?
Guys or gals, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to the...
Wait, Toma, it says here that 45% of our viewers of the podcast are subscribers.
So 60 or not?
I thought it would be
55 or not, yeah.
He's not good with math, Tomer, those Houthis.
No, I mean, yes, we can do better, but again, it's a huge vote of confidence from your audience if 45% of them repeat viewers.
Yeah. Okay,
so
let's go.
We're talking about Lebanon.
So Lebanon, we are at war, but at the halftime pause. Basically, now there's a halftime show. United Nations are coming in.
I think that
again to their
to
post.
get the full picture, you need to involve what's happening in Syria and Lebanon together, because Syria, it's a huge effect right now, and I must say that I never saw that a fall of a dictator looking like that when so many other players getting into the game. So if you can wrap us about that war that we just got in and now this over, so...
We've seen these things happen before. I'll tell you what I think is the anomaly now, is how fast it's been happening. And
what, the fall of Syria?
The fall of Syria, and what I would say that, let's zoom out from what we've been talking about in Israel.
It's all because of the mustache.
The mustache?
Yeah, but the moment that Assad lost his mustache,
he lost his power.
He lost his power.
He lost his mojo. but I mean, yes, one way to look at it is that I'd say there's another big factor in here, is that Assad is one of the last dictators of, let's call it the destabilized Arab world, to remain standing. And he comes after a very long chain of destabilized countries, be it the Iraqis, Saddam Hussein is long gone and the country is, is broken into many, many pieces. Be it Gaddafi, be it Egypt, who underwent, several violent coups to end up where it is today, and multiple other similar events in other countries. So he's sort of the last piece to remain standing. He was already deeply weakened by over 10 years of civil warfare and meddling.
He was always, in the past, since the civil war in Syria, he was basically there only because the Russians and the Iranians kept them there. That's it.
And the Russians made a huge show.
And now the Iranians invested a lot in Hezbollah. And Israel lost. And Israel is cracking down on Iranian presence in Syria for the past year as well. Yeah, for the past year.
I mean, we've been doing it
even before
off the radar, pun intended.
Yeah.
With military strikes and airstrikes for years now.
But it has been intensified in the past war for sure.
Yeah.
And then the Russians busy with Ukraine. So Syria is not on the map.
Let's frame this conversation for a second, because I think we need to talk about some of the satellite images that have come out.
From what? From Syria?
From Syria, from their ports. So before HTS, El Julani, before their new...
The guy that looked
like... The jihadist organization that is controlling Syria. And by the way, he just, again, threatened Israel.
What's his name with a beard? Well, I'm pulling a blank. Volodymyr Zelensky. He looks like Zelensky. He looks like Zelensky with a beard. Same attire. They probably were taking notes, by the way, from Zelensky's press appearances. So before this happens, and HTS, and this is what, 3 weeks now in the making, 3.5 weeks. Before this happens, Syria in its western part, which is most inhabited, is Assad regime, which is a weakened regime. On the port, they have Russian bases in an enclave or enclave, however you want to pronounce it, that belongs to the Russians. You have U.S. Special Forces. You have Israeli forces sort of in the southern part of the country. And you have the Turks who are attacking the Kurds on the northern part of the country. Did I miss someone? And the Iranians.
And the Iranians rejoined.
Yeah, but the Iranians were present in the country.
Yeah.
This revolution happens within the country. Within a matter of 10 days, Assad regime is toppled. He flees the country, ends up in Moscow, humiliated, with his money though, by the way, which is
lots of money.
Billions of dollars in
milliards.
Billions.
Billions.
Yeah.
Billions.
Billions. Americans take what should be an M and turn it to a B. Some linguists will be able to explain why. Because the metric is usually in the M.
So he's there, he's supposedly still controlling Syria according to him, but de facto he's not doing any of that.
Yeah, he's gone.
And then Iran is out of the picture. We didn't hear much from Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in recent days or weeks since this happened, basically. The question with them is the nuclear weapon.
From the Houthis side, from the proxy.
Yeah, they still use their proxy. But let's get to the Houthis in a minute.
The Iranians did that through the Houthis?
I think, yes. They
You don't think the Houthi hate us for themselves?
Why would they?
Yeah.
Why would anyone hate us? What are we doing?
They shot a missile. They shot a ballistic missile at us. And they shooting us more and more lately.
Well, they're the only ones left standing, Tomer.
Yeah.
There's no one else who's able to launch a rocket.
That's true, no.
They didn't get to Israel.
Well, Iran didn't shoot at us for a while now.
No, the Iranians have learned their lesson.
Yeah.
But between the U.S. government being very, very strong on them, Israel striking within Iran multiple times, knocking out their air defenses, losing... I mean, think about the financial loss. They've lost... I don't want to throw random numbers.
No,
I'm guessing it's upwards of $100 billion of investment.
I think more.
Easily.
It was $20 billion a year just to help Hezbollah.
Hezbollah is $1 billion a year.
Oh yeah, 20
plus
million.
Weaponry, and over 20 years.
And then Islamic Jihad.
And then everyone else in the region, and the Syrians and the
Houthis.
So they've lost a huge amount of money and people in this region.
Mati, we had this, like when I worked today on the morning report, I understood something that right now Iran is losing power, but somehow Turkey, that have the same ambition, absorbing power and starting to get steps into this region.
Well, Turkey is an anomaly because it's a NATO member, it's an ally of the United States. But yet Erdogan has these claims of...
That's not what Trump said.
I don't know that I would call them an ally. I'd say that they're
a NATO ally. Okay, according to the NATO agreement, if you still, count it.
Turkey is the example of the saying, hold your friends close and your enemies closer. They are, the poorly behaved child of the Bosphorus who, sits over there and has been causing trouble for the West for many, many decades and honestly generations when you think about it. And the West tried to pull them near so they wouldn't get too close to the Russians or others.
But not too near. They don't want to include them in the EU, and they want to keep them as a barrier between the Middle East and Europe. So basically all the refugees go to Turkey and not reach Europe.
Turkey is a convenient ally until you start translating what they actually say.
Yeah.
And then no one in the West actually wants to be in a tight partnership with them because they say some crazy, crazy things on a regular basis. They do not uphold the most basic of human rights. They use insane amounts of violence against the Kurds and against their own population. They have corruption problems.
Yeah.
They have fascist, do you say fascistic?
They are the most
fascistic-like elements in their government.
Open, closed country in the world.
Yeah, and again, they're also so unstable in the last 20 years.
Also, their economy is is going down the hill, and on the same time, they have these empire aspirations. They want to get back to the time of the Ottoman Empire, and just now, Erdogan claimed that Aleppo and other cities in Syria are actually Turkish cities, and Turkey is the one that should control them. And they're not just talking, they're already making moves with their army in the northern parts of Syria against the Kurds.
Well, the Turks are doing something similar to what Israel is doing.
Yeah.
They see a region being thrown into instability.
But they've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, and they have another element, which we feared Hezbollah, and we feared, let's call it the Islamic movements within Syria. They're terrified of the Kurds.
Yeah.
They have a generation-long problem with the Kurds in northern Turkey. Not to say that the Kurds are problematic. It's the Turks are afraid of the Kurdish people because they don't want to give them an autonomy.
You met the Barzani family.
Yeah, I've been to Barzan. We were in Barzan land in Iraqi Kurdistan. The Turks and the Iraqis and everyone else are always afraid of the Kurds because they're an enormous and very strong minority.
Yeah.
They've always feared them. So the Turks are looking at this as, wait, it's being destabilized. We can't afford to have the Kurdish people fight within what was Syria to gain autonomy, because then we're going to have a Kurdish autonomy on our border with their own countrymen or nation men on the other side of it.
Yeah, definitely.
So they're afraid, they're terrified of that situation. Terrified.
Yeah. And you see they're making moves to prevent that.
Yeah.
And okay, so are we going to see more violence from Syria?
Yes.
Because is the war over in Syria?
No, the
war didn't just begin.
The war that existed up till now is over.
The war with Assad, the 50-year-old war between Syria and Israel.
Assad regime conflict with Israel is over. Syria as a nation state that has a foreign policy that actually tries to follow it is over.
It's over. So now
Syria is destabilized and will remain destabilized for the foreseeable future. And then I think that takes us to the question of what lessons has Israel learned, and how do we see that in the actions the IDF has taken? I think that's where it takes us to.
Well, we learned that we cannot trust anybody but ourselves with our security.
Exactly.
And that's what the IDF is doing, creating basically a buffer zone everywhere, everywhere where we don't have countries that we have peace with.
To do what?
To get the people of Israel back to their homes. There is so many people went out of their home in the north. You must create a buffer zone.
Yeah, but I think it's more dramatic than that.
It's not just a little buffer zone.
Yeah.
It's like
the Israeli government had a moment of reckoning, or I should say a year of reckoning, where it realized time and time again that the only way to provide security for the people of Israel is to provide that security yourself. You can have friends, you can have allies, it's all nice and good, but when push comes to shove, the only way...
When push comes to shove?
Oh, push comes to shove, it's an expression.
I know.
Same like this subscribe button.
Bush comes where? Anyway.
Why is he shoving somebody? Okay, go.
So when it really comes to the money time, the only way that Israel can protect its population is creating that security. And the way to create that security, and this is the basic element of military defenses, is you always have to have land that you can fall back from.
Yeah.
Land to push your enemy away. And that's what we've done.
Not to fight on your communities. And that's what we had in this war, that we had to evacuate almost 100,000 Israelis from their houses because that was the war zone. That was the area where you conducted the fighting against Hezbollah.
Yeah, and for decades, again, if you haven't been to the border areas of Israel, this requires explaining. Here's the border, and right on the border is the Jewish community.
Yeah.
And there is no army between the Jewish community and the border.
True.
And
there's a little fence, maybe a jeep that patrols it, once a day, 3 times a day, and a UN military base that is
exactly.
supposed to
The IDF assumption always was, if there would be a war with someone like the Assad regime, we'll have intel and we'll call in the reservists, we'll have 72 hours, whatever it is, and we'll get in our tanks and we'll get in our jeeps and we'll drive up and then break into their country.
And create this buffer zone while we're fighting.
That hasn't worked.
That was a wrong assumption.
That hasn't
worked. We've seen it.
Repeatedly.
It took us a few days to get the terrorists outside of Israel on October 7th.
Exactly.
And it was a mess of the country. We didn't know, where they are.
A few days. It was 14 days.
14 days.
14 days before the last one that we know of was removed from the country.
Yeah.
And that was the guy a guy or a couple guys inside Ashkelon.
Yeah.
They were hiding inside a huge, hundreds of thousands of people Israeli city, hiding inside an apartment for over a week.
Yeah.
So it took us a while to get them out. The IDF is not doing that anymore. We're not going back to that place.
Yeah, for
Our
sure.
doctrine now is if we need security from you, then I'm putting a base there. And if I need to take your land here to get that security, we're doing that.
Yeah.
And we've done that in Syria. We took over the Syrian Khermon. We took over some of the strongholds and the bases that were the Syrian army bases.
Yeah, we're 20 kilometers away from Damascus. Yeah. Damascus is the capital of Syria.
Yeah. I don't know how long we're going to stay there, but yes, it's
pretty big. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
Hey, but all of this,
and that's without shooting a bullet.
Yeah, because there was no one to fight.
And
they were busy fighting
we have some resistance from the rebels now.
From what the news is coming from Syria, it's that Druze over there want us
to take over,
and they want to be part of Israel.
Well, yeah, they do.
So.
Yeah, but all of this, it's important also to mention that all of this has effects on the citizens of Israel, not just, security-wise, but also on the economy. The economy of Israel, especially the communities around Gaza, on the border with Lebanon, on the border with Syria. Okay? Now, Mati, how can our viewers, people who want to support Israel, can help us?
Are you talking about our sponsor today?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
You like my lead to it? It's always like a guessing game, right?
It was very subtle. It was very subtle. So today's sponsor, and I'll say this to our camera, thank you for sticking with us so far. Yair and I should have taken our meds this morning. I think we've been all over the place.
One coffee less, maybe.
Anyway, our sponsor today is Box. And Box is a unique sponsor in the sense that they take hand-picked, artisan-created goods from the country of Israel and send them to people around the world.
Yes.
And if you want a way where you can physically touch, feel in your hands, enjoy the fruit of the labor of, we're not talking corporations, we're talking family businesses. Small businesses, artisans. It's all beautifully curated, all beautifully packaged from the state of Israel to wherever you are in the world. It's a subscription, so you get multiple of these a year, and you can buy them for your friends, for your family. So for Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, whatever it is you celebrate, you can get...
This is the season where all these holidays combine.
Exactly. So you can get these packages, and it's also a way to directly bless people in this country.
Yeah.
And of course, we also benefit if you buy through our link. People can benefit that. There's a link underneath the screen where you can go and purchase an Box for you, for your loved ones in this holiday season. Amazing. So take a second, pause the video. We'll still be here when you come back, and go subscribe to Box.
Yeah, it's www.artsabox.com, and we have a coupon that will give you 10% off. The coupon is TBNIL. Okay, so artsabox.com, and the coupon is TBNIL. That's how you can help us, help the people of Israel, and stay connected with this land, and give somebody a great gift. Okay. So, we covered Syria. Syria, the war is about to come, but we don't know against who, at what magnitude, but we are prepared. Okay, our forces, the IDF, is taking its positions against the unknown, or whatever will come from there.
I think this is take us back to Gaza, because I see the Hamas seeing what Israel doing right now in the Hermon, and he's afraid. Israel taking land. We taking land to protect ourselves, and we don't care now. We're saying sorry, and Trump is coming, and so what the future hold us?
It's interesting. in retrospect, everyone looks at things and they say, "Oh, this is the obvious chain of events." Think back a year, we have all these Islamist experts, and I can name quite a few of them, who all of them say, "You don't understand Muslim mindset. do you remember this?
I remember that.
The only way to get them to understand that you mean business is to take away their land.
That's the only thing they care about. They don't care about the people. They don't care about their children. They care about land.
And what's interesting is it clicks also with military doctrine.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Like if your neighbor is insane, I don't have words that are PG to rate it. If your neighbor is insane and violent, then push him away. And the way to push him away is to take part of his backyard, push him out and say, thank you, you stay over there, don't come into this area or else, because we want to live our lives without having the deranged neighbor on our border all the time. And that's what we've done. We've taken over pieces of the Gaza Strip. We've taken over pieces of Lebanon, of Syria. Syria right now, what was the number? The number was like almost 400 square kilometers.
I think it's 384.3.
It's a lot.
If I got this right. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Of square kilometers that the IDF is now controlling in Syria.
To Americans, this is just a ranch in Texas.
Yeah, right.
For Israel, this is significant.
It's big size,
For Israel, this is significant.
I think it's a lot. It's like maybe 8% of the size of Israel.
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm throwing numbers, but I think so. Just like according to the map,
7,000 size Israel.
Yeah, so it's a change of the strategy that Israel is doing.
Israel is 21,000 square kilometers.
So it's what?
State of Israel.
2%, 3%. It's a lot.
Yeah, but it's significant on a defense level.
Yeah.
It's significant because it allows us to hold on to key positions to prevent people from, and this is what we saw in Manara, from showing up on our border, taking a missile that they pulled out of the back of a truck and start firing into schools on the Israeli side. And again, this isn't them fighting against IDF soldiers or anything like that, which I'm not saying is legitimate, but it's different at least.
Yeah.
This is them trying to make life impossible for the people of Israel. And I'll say this, if the communities of northern Israel didn't hold on to that land, then we would have had to evacuate the entire Galilee and Golan Heights of our country.
Listen, if we did not have Israeli citizens living there, we would have underground terrorist infrastructures of Hezbollah and other terrorist elements if we're talking about Syria now.
I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball, which is a baseball euphemism, to explain this. Israeli society right now, there's a lot of elements in society calling for us to create new communities in the land that was seized. And you can look at it from the outside and say this is sort of a sneak peek into Israeli society and mindset. You could look at it and say, oh, there are these like radical elements in Israeli society. They're just doing this because they want to take, they want to, whatever. They're violent settlers, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Another way to look at it is pre-settlement world, pre-Judean Samaria. There was a term before the state of Israel existed, and I'll say this in Hebrew. In the pioneer generation, that said that I'm paraphrasing, in the place where the tractor stops plowing, that's where the borderline will be set.
Yeah.
And if this war has shown us anything, is how true that statement is. So the army, rightfully so, won't hold on to land that has no significance to the people.
Yeah.
There needs to be something that you're protecting as an army. And that's what people
Not just a border line.
Exactly. That's what people are calling for right now. Tomo, did you pick up sign language?
I can. Micha, bring it up.
Micha, come on in, it's fine.
I was going to give him this. So he has it.
More.
Don't mind me.
More names?
Once again.
Yeah, but it's not that we finished. I just need it next to me. We got another thing from Alon, if you want to remind us.
Alon. Okay, Alon, by the way, for those of you who don't know him, he's one of the guys that work with us, and he's now in the Gaza Strip, I think for the fourth time as part of his IDF reserve duty. He has a family here in Jerusalem. We love him very much, and he's been writing a blog about his experiences in Gaza in this war. So you want to send it to me so I'll read it?
It's in the script down in yellow.
Okay. Okay, so Alon is not alone segment.
That's my joke.
Yeah, that's
Dad joke for years.
Okay. Last week, after we finished the podcast, Alon sent out an update, and I wanted to read a short portion of it. This is Mati writing to himself. I haven't updated in a few days, mainly because I got the privilege of getting to go out for a day and a half to say goodbye to Yair, that's his wife, and the boys before they flew to Finland. The day of me leaving, getting out to see them, is the first day in this rotation that we got our first reality check of this rotation. We had been on high alert for the majority of the day because the neighboring platoon had an RPG hit their convoy as they were supposed to be getting out for a short break. Sadly, we lost 3 soldiers and multiple others were injured in different conditions. It reminded us that even though we have a tendency to feel at home in Gaza and that we're winning in the skirmish, it still is a hostile place where there's danger lurking and the enemy is still able to hit and sometimes even hard. There's normally a short period after something like this happens where everything feels eerie and we tend to take things extra serious. But it's also oddly short-lived because very soon after we were back to talking about whatever the earth is flat, do aliens exist, and blah, blah, blah. I do also have a really sweet story to finish up the day with. After they landed in Finland, his family, I got to call them when I got back on the base, and very soon into the conversation, while Eli, Alon's son, was with his cousin, he said, "Abba, isn't it true that God answered my prayers and the bad guys were getting tired of fighting and they were giving up?" After I validated it based on what I said earlier in the week about some of the terrorists attempting to cross over to the humanitarian zones with the other civilians and giving up and being arrested, he said, "See, I told you that God answered my prayer." That's my boy. Both Yair and I are so proud of his point of view, and I'm very encouraged to see things through his amazing little eyes. Okay, so guys, again, if you want to make this prayer for Jerusalem, for Israel personal, think of Alon. He's a normal guy. I don't know if you could call him normal, but he's a cool guy.
He's a great guy.
He has a family. He's working with us for many, many years, and he's now fighting in the Gaza Strip, defending our country. So pray for Alon that he will return home safely to his wife and kids.
I think that this title is not good for it. It's not okay to be for a lone point of view, at least, because the people that are there, the war is not over really, and they doing the hard job every day and risking their life. And
for the soldiers, the war is not over.
It's not over.
For sure.
No, it's not over for anyone.
Yeah.
And we still have an enormous amount of people in northern Israel and the Gaza Strip. I just last night was in reserves in meetings with my unit.
Getting back to reserves.
Yeah, we're not going home anytime soon.
Yeah, that's true.
In fact, we're talking already about the next round that we have to go in for an extended period. So I think that's a reality that everything we talked about sort of funnels into that, which is there is a meaning in human life that is hurt and sacrificed when we hold on to these borders. And the meaning is that tens and maybe hundreds of thousands of Israelis will continue to serve in reserves. Our regular army is growing a lot.
Yeah.
It has no choice. They're recruiting more people. They're opening more
and they're keeping the people for longer in the mandatory service.
Exactly. Extending the mandatory service in the IDF, creating more combat units for both men.
Opening units for women, for the Orthodox, and more.
Trying with the Orthodox.
So the army really, I don't know, upgrading right now from the knowledge you got from the last
definitely.
No, the army is enormous in comparison to what it was in the past. But it's not just that. In the end, it's always people on the ground. It's always one guy who had to leave his family, like Alon, like myself, like Yair, and countless others, leave the family behind and go and fight for our country in whatever capacity. And that's not changing anytime soon.
No.
That's
I don't see that changing.
That's going to be our reality. In the past, someone in my age couple more years for Yair, I would have been at the end of my reserve service.
Yeah, now they're opening new units,
starting
with your age, you know.
They send a message to everybody who is ever wanted to join up.
Ads about it too.
Yeah.
I receive ads because of my age. I receive ads directly on social media about it, about joining units that are being formed right now. Yeah. So I mean, there's a human life toll that's been taken in this, and we're gonna. And again, this sort of goes back to both a sad and a positive place. Israel is strong, and we have reason to be optimistic because the tourism is going to come back, the borders are going to open up. Just a couple days ago, there was an article that 3 European airlines are renewing their flights to Israel.
Yeah, that's encouraging.
We're going back to a time of stability and peace. We're going back to a time where people fear the Israeli army everywhere you go in the Middle East, and they don't dare mess with you, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, we become the police of the region.
And at the same time, it doesn't come free.
Yeah.
There's a price to pay, and that price is we need to keep serving our country. It costs a fortune to keep doing this, and in both in life, in time, and in finances. Mm-hmm. And that's our reality for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, definitely. Well, a lot of things are happening in the Middle East, as always. And what I would like to ask you is to keep us in your prayers. Okay?
Please do.
Yeah. Pray for Mati, for Tomer, for Alon, for our people here in Israel, and most importantly, for the families. You know, if a guy is going to defend the country, he has a wife and kids back at home. Tomer, what are you bringing us?
Okay, let's try a couple of more names.
Names? Okay, more names. I hope they printed it a bit. They printed it a bit bigger. No, they didn't. It's like the smallest font.
I think it's always the same pile.
The Israel podcast. Okay, TBN Israel, the podcast is pretty close. Let's see, and something I don't understand.
Yair and Shoshani podcast. Well, it should be Pinto and Shoshani for following that.
Following names, yeah. In it, TBN Israel's Talking Points, or Talking Points Israel.
I'll tell you what,
good.
I have no problem laughing at myself. A lot of these names have to do with me being bald and Yair having hair. So we're going to make a new rule. If you make a joke about it, you need to donate to my Patreon
for hair implant. Mati.com. Just kidding.
The website doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
But in Israel,
we can finish over here, and we have a wedding today. So just mazal.
Yes, Achinom, our post-production producer, is getting married tonight.
Yeah.
So mazal tov to Achinom.
Yeah, we're gonna go
What
dance.
is her spouse's name? I don't remember. Achinom and husband-to-be.
Achinom Marie, I think. Okay, thanks for sticking in for so long. We don't want to keep you in any longer. And keep praying for Israel. Subscribe, like, share with anyone who wants to know what's happening on the streets, on the ground here in Israel. I've been Yair Pinto.
And I'm Mati Shoshani.
Currently. See you soon.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.